So, picture this. You see someone standing completely alone at a professional networking event.
Oh, that is always so uncomfortable.
Right, they're looking incredibly awkward, and your immediate instinct is to just walk over and introduce yourself.
Yeah, be the nice person.
Exactly. But instead, almost involuntarily, you pull out your phone, furrow your brow, and just pretend to answer some urgent email.
Oh, absolutely. I've done it.
We all have, right? But why do we do that? Like, we know the right thing to do, but we actively choose the path of inaction.
Well, it's because we build this massive psychological wall. We do it to avoid even the slightest potential for social friction.
Right.
The human brain is just remarkably efficient at prioritizing immediate comfort over potential connection.
Yeah.
And we dress up that avoidance as just, being busy.
Being busy. Yeah, that's such a good way to put it. Well, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are cracking open a really fascinating stack of source materials to figure out exactly why that happens.
Yeah, this is a great one.
It really is. So, on the table today, we have an official curriculum workbook. It explores the concept of initiative, and it's designed for a youth mentoring program.
Right. But theory is really only half the picture here.
Exactly, because we also have a raw, real-world audio transcript of a volunteer mentor, Coach AJ, and he's walking a room full of future leaders through this exact curriculum.
And honestly, the dynamic captured in that room is an incredible case study.
Oh, completely.
What you hear is essentially a masterclass in behavioral psychology, but it's brilliantly translated to resonate with young adults.
So the mission for today is navigating this very specific chasm. Like, how do you take a highly abstract, kind of intimidating concept like initiative and make it actionable for restless youth?
Right. How do you make it real for them?
Exactly. We're going to explore how these mentors bridge the gap between knowing the right thing to do and actually doing it. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Well, let's look at how Coach AJ sets the temperature of the room right out of the gate.
Yeah, he doesn't mess around.
No, he doesn't start with these lofty academic definitions of leadership. He grounds the entire concept using a multiple choice assessment of just, everyday scenarios to establish a baseline.
And these are situations literally anyone who has ever been in a school or an office frankly recognizes instantly.
Oh, totally.
Like, he asks them what they would do if a teacher hasn't arrived yet, and the classroom is descending into total chaos.
Right. The classic substitute teacher scenario.
Yes, exactly. Do you join the chaos? Do you just put your head down and scroll on your phone? Or do you actively try to calm the room down?
And notice the subtle framing there, too.
Yeah.
Because he asks the students to circle what they would actually do and then put a star next to what they wish they would do.
Oh, I loved that part.
Yeah, he's forcing them to visually separate intention from action right there on the page.
And the honesty he gets in return is jarring, honestly. He brings up another scenario, which is very similar to our networking event example.
Right, the cafeteria.
Yes. What do you do when you see a peer sitting alone in the cafeteria, clearly uncomfortable? Now, obviously, everyone wants to cast themselves as the hero of their own story.
Right, someone who pulls up a chair and saves the day.
Exactly. But the youth confess that they would almost universally just, quote, mind their business and keep walking.
Wow. And the underlying reasoning they give is what makes this so compelling to me.
Yeah.
When Coach AJ probes into why they wouldn't just say hello, they admit it's not out of malice.
No, not at all.
It's pure fear. They articulate this very real fear that the gesture won't be welcomed. They think, what if they want to be alone? What if I misread the situation and make it weird?
Make it weird, yes. And, it is incredibly tempting to listen to that and dismiss it as just typical teenage self-absorption.
Sure.
But I have to say, adults do the exact same thing in office break rooms every single day.
Oh, 100%.
We wrap it in these sophisticated excuses like, oh, I'm just respecting their boundaries or I'm maintaining professional distance. But the core mechanism is identical. It's just fear of awkwardness.
The adult brain is just as susceptible to the threat of social rejection because biologically, social rejection registers in the brain similarly to physical pain.
Wait, really? Physical pain?
Yeah, it uses the same neural pathways. So bypassing that fear requires a tremendous amount of metabolic energy. And this brings us to the workbook's core definition.
Okay.
Initiative isn't just having a kind or productive thought. It is the physical muscle required to cross that gap. The workbook actually uses a quote from Mother Teresa, which I thought was great.
Oh, the stone and the ripples?
Right. She says, I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast the stone across the waters to create many ripples.
That's powerful.
It is. And the point is, the thought is just the stone in your hand.
Oh.
Initiative is the actual physical throw.
And holding the stone in your hand feels fantastic, you know?
Oh, yeah. Very comfortable.
You get all the moral superiority of having a good intention without burning a single calorie. But initiative is the physical act of the throw.
Exactly. And if holding the stone is comfortable and throwing it demands energy, well, the brain inevitably looks for a loophole.
Right.
It searches for a way to feel like it's taking action without actually experiencing the discomfort of the work. And that is the exact space where procrastination thrives.
The silent saboteur.
Yep.
Now, the workbook lists the usual suspects for why we procrastinate, right? The task is unpleasant, it's too complex, or maybe we just lack self-confidence.
The standard stuff.
Right. But Coach AJ frames the psychology of delay in a way that fundamentally shifted how I look at my own to-do list.
Because he challenges the assumption that procrastination is an intentional act of laziness.
Yes.
When we delay, we don't think of ourselves as lazy. We think of ourselves as being highly strategic.
Right. Coach AJ points out to the room that when you say, hey, I'll write my history paper later tonight, it genuinely feels like a responsible decision in the moment.
Of course it does.
You glance at your mental schedule, you spot a free hour at 7 p.m., and you just lock it in.
But the fatal flaw in that logic is the phenomenon of the planning fallacy.
Oh, tell me about it.
You are making an assumption about a future state over which you have zero control. We envision our future selves as these perfect, highly disciplined robots who will operate in a completely frictionless environment.
Yes. You know, it is exactly like playing Tetris with your daily calendar.
Oh, that is a great analogy.
Right. You deliberately leave this massive, like 4-block deep gap on the side of the screen.
Assuming the straight piece is coming.
Exactly. You are totally confident that a perfectly shaped, long, straight block will drop down later and just clear all your problems at once.
Yeah, but life rarely delivers the straight block.
Never. Life inevitably drops a totally random, jagged Z block that completely ruins the board.
Yep.
Coach AJ explains to the youth that you plan for that flawless hour at 7 p.m., but then, I don't know, the family dog gets sick on the rug, or a friend calls in a panic, or the Wi-Fi goes down.
And the perfect hour just evaporates.
Exactly. The failure wasn't a lack of desire to do the homework. It was catastrophic forecasting.
And by tying it to forecasting, Coach AJ connects directly to the workbook's warning. The procrastination ultimately, quote, takes away your choice.
Takes away your choice.
Right. When you push a task into the future, you surrender your agency to random circumstance.
Yeah.
The ticking clock eventually makes the choices for you. It dictates how you do the work and the quality of the final product.
You essentially hand the steering wheel over to chaos.
Basically.
But how do you shatter that optimism bias? Because, I mean, realizing you're bad at forecasting a history paper doesn't necessarily create a sense of urgency.
No, it doesn't.
This is where the mentors introduce a reality check that fundamentally changes the atmosphere in the room.
Yeah, this part was heavy. Coach Bob, who is a retired firefighter serving as a guest mentor, steps in here.
Right.
He shares this visceral story from his career in New Jersey to illustrate the real-world cost of delay.
Yeah, he describes a situation where his fire company was supposed to restock their supply of absorbent kitty litter.
Which sounds so mundane.
Right, it's just a supply used to soak up oil at car accidents. But they put the errand off for just 2 days. And because of that tiny delay, the engine company was outrunning that exact errand when a massive fire broke out right across the street from their station.
Wow.
Because the truck wasn't in the bay, the response was delayed. And tragically, 5 children died in that fire.
It's just devastating.
It is. But I have to say, I am going to push back hard on this approach.
Okay, let's hear it.
I hear that story, and my immediate reaction is that it's just too much. If my boss told me my delayed spreadsheet was equivalent to a fatal building fire, I wouldn't suddenly become more productive. I'd just be paralyzed by anxiety.
Sure, that makes sense.
So does terrifying a teenager about life and death consequences actually forge sustainable initiative, or does it just create overwhelming panic?
That is a crucial distinction to make. Because if the takeaway is simply make a mistake and people die, you absolutely get paralysis. Right, but that isn't Coach Bob's angle here. He isn't using fear. He is using duty.
Duty. Okay.
Our workbook outlines a specific reason for procrastination, which is not recognizing the harm. Typically, we view our delays through this highly self-centered lens, like if I don't study, I get a bad grade.
Yeah, it's all about me.
Exactly. Coach Bob's story forcefully pivots their perspective from internal consequences to external impacts.
Oh, I see. So it's about breaking them out of their own bubble.
Precisely. It demonstrates that your lack of preparation actually steals from the community.
Yeah.
You cannot know whose life is going to be impacted by you not being where you're supposed to be.
Wow.
It redefines initiative from a self-help productivity hack into a profound social responsibility.
That is a massive perspective shift. So the stakes are set. The room understands that their actions or lack thereof ripple outward in ways they really can't predict.
Right.
But fear and duty still don't rewire the brain's desire to conserve energy. Like if I'm sitting in that circle, I might want to change, but I still don't know how to overcome my own inertia.
And that's the key, right? Recognizing the stakes is really just the diagnosis. To provide a cure, the mentors pull a classic parable from the workbook. It's called the rising floodwaters.
Oh, I've heard this one. A man is trapped on the roof of his house during a massive flood, and he's praying for divine intervention.
Yep.
A neighbor in a canoe paddles up, and the man waves him away. A police boat arrives. He waves it away. A rescue helicopter drops the ladder. And again, he refuses it because he's convinced a more spectacular miracle is on the way.
Right. He wants the shiny miracle.
Exactly. Eventually, the water rises, he drowns, and when he asks why his prayers weren't answered, he's told, I sent you a canoe, a boat, and a helicopter. You refused them all.
And Coach AJ translates this ancient metaphor into the immediate daily reality of a student. Because the man on the roof isn't waiting for a miracle. He is letting his ego dictate his rescue.
Ooh, his ego.
Yeah, he wants the solution to look exactly the way he imagined it.
Right. AJ tells the youth, when your teacher pulls you aside and asks if you need an extension on your project, that is the canoe. A warning note sent home about a failing grade. That is the helicopter. We ignore this help because accepting the canoe requires us to admit that our personal, flawed strategy is failing.
We don't want to admit defeat.
We sit on our roofs waiting for frictionless rescue while literally batting away the messy, real-world lifelines bumping against the side of the house.
And it requires immense vulnerability to grab the canoe. So the workbook provides some psychological scaffolding to make that grab easier.
Okay, what kind of scaffolding?
Well, one technique is task pairing. Behavioral scientists call this dopamine bundling.
Oh, I love that term.
You basically pair a high-friction task, like chores or homework, with a high-reward stimulus, like listening to a favorite album.
That makes a lot of sense. But here's the strategy that stood out as an absolute game changer for me.
Which one?
Coach AJ shares his personal anti-overwhelm tactic. When he feels entirely paralyzed by a massive to-do list, he takes a blank piece of paper and writes one massive non-negotiable task at the very top.
Just one.
Just one. And if the entire day falls apart, he still has to complete that one single item.
He is effectively hacking his own executive function there. Because when a person is overwhelmed, they suffer from acute decision fatigue.
Totally.
The cognitive load required to choose what to do from a list of 20 items is often more exhausting than the task itself. By isolating a single item, he completely bypasses the friction of choice.
And taking it out of the chaotic, swirling mess of your anxious brain and turning it into a physical object in the real world, it acts as an unbreakable contract.
It really does.
You look at the paper and the paper looks back at you. It establishes a boundary. Executors use this exact same framework. They call it the most important task method to cut through corporate noise.
Right.
It's just so fascinating to see the exact same neurological tool applied to a teenager trying to pass biology.
And Coach AJ doesn't just explain it. He forces them to practice it right there.
He does.
He challenges the students to pick one thing they are currently avoiding, ending a bad relationship, starting an essay, apologizing to a friend, and write it down in huge letters right then and there. He makes them cast the first stone while they are still in a safe environment.
Because getting the stone in the air is the hardest part. But once it lands, the mentors explain that something incredible happens to the environment.
Yep.
Initiative is entirely contagious. It spreads through a community like a virus.
And they contrast negative and positive contagion to prove the point.
Yeah, Coach Bob's example here was great.
Right. He notes that if a teacher leaves a bowl of candy on their desk and steps into the hallway, the class will initially just stare at it.
Nobody wants to be the first.
Right. But the moment one single kid walks up and takes a piece uninvited, half the room will immediately follow suit.
Negative initiative lowers the social barrier to bad behavior. It provides instant psychological safety for everyone else to act on their baseline impulses.
But the underlying mechanism, herd behavior and social proof, it works just as powerfully in the opposite direction.
It really does. Coach AJ illustrates this with a famous, true story about a Starbucks drive-thru.
Oh, I love this story.
Right. Someone decided, completely unprompted, to pay for the coffee of the car behind them, just one pebble thrown into the pond. But instead of the person in the second car just taking their free latte and driving off, they decided to pay for the third car.
Wow.
And the third paid for the fourth. It sparked an unbroken chain reaction of 41 consecutive cars.
41 cars.
41 strangers, linked by a single act of initiative.
What's vital to understand about that chain reaction is the concept of frictionless altruism.
Frictionless altruism. Break that down.
Well, the driver of the first car took on all the social risk and financial friction of initiating the act.
Right.
The driver of the second car didn't have to invent the idea. They just had to follow a newly established social norm. The first action made the second action exponentially easier.
And the workbook captures this beautifully with the phrase, opportunity dances with those already on the dance floor.
I love that quote.
You don't need a formal invitation to start moving.
And Coach Bob points out that in the Fire Academy, the highest awards for initiative at the end of the term never go to the loudest recruit or the one barking orders.
Who do they go to?
They go to the recruit who quietly grabs a mop when the floor is wet without being asked. They go to the person who sees a vacuum in the environment and simply fills it. Leadership is an action, not a title.
That's so profound, opening a door for a stranger whose hands are full, or finally walking over to that person sitting alone at the networking event. It isn't just about being polite.
No.
You are casting a pebble that fundamentally alters the microculture of that room. When you hold a door, the person behind you is statistically far more likely to hold the next door. You are literally engineering a better reality for people you will never even meet.
But again, the physical bridge is the only thing that matters.
The throw.
Exactly. If that first driver at Starbucks had merely intended to pay but kept their wallet in their pocket, 41 people would have just had a forgettable Tuesday. Action is the only currency that buys the ripple.
Well, we've covered a tremendous amount of ground today. We analyze why our brains prioritize immediate comfort over social connection, creating that painful gap between knowing and doing.
Yep.
We expose the trap of procrastination, realizing that it isn't laziness, but terrible forecasting, and the dangerous game of calendar Tetris.
A very dangerous game.
We learn from Coach Bob that taking action is a profound duty to the unseen people around us. And we uncovered the immense power of the ripple effect, where one small move can alter the trajectory of a whole community.
It's just a powerful reminder that the mechanics of human behavior don't change just because we graduate high school.
Not at all.
The exact same mental roadblocks preventing a teenager from writing an essay are preventing adults from launching businesses or repairing marriages or confronting toxic workplace cultures. The stakes elevate, but the machinery is identical.
Coach AJ ended his session by challenging every future leader in that room to cast one pebble before their head hit the pillow that night.
A great challenge.
So we want to leave you with a slightly different angle to ponder. We all have that massive, overwhelming problem we're procrastinating on. But what if the way to unstick yourself isn't by staring harder at your own problem?
Okay, what is it then?
Think about the reverse ripple. What is one small, incredibly simple act of initiative you could take today to solve someone else's problem?
Oh, that's interesting.
Sometimes stepping onto the dance floor to help someone else creates the exact momentum you need to finally throw your own stone.
Action creates momentum, regardless of where it's directed.
You just have to build the bridge. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the mechanics of initiative. Take this knowledge, step into your world today, and start throwing some pebbles. Until next time.